What is up, everybody? We are live as the Boston Celtics absolutely obliterated the Milwaukee Bucks, winning 131 to 101. Actually, 133 to 101. Take that back. And they improved to 52 and 25 on the season. Jason Tatum was one assist away from a triple double in 3 quarters. Jaylen Brown didn't have his usual scoring game in terms of total points, but he was super efficient. Had 11, or I believe, never mind. Jason Tatum had 11 rebounds. Jaylen Brown had 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 7 of 17 on field goals. Only plays the through the third quarter as well. So just a super clean, efficient game from the Boston Celtics against a Milwaukee Bucks team that, sure, they don't have Giannis. He's not playing. Obviously, Bobby Portis is not playing. They are in the midst of a hard tankathon right now. But nevertheless, the Boston Celtics are on fire. And Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're figuring it out. Each and every single game, it looks better. Jason Tatum is fully back in my eyes in terms of the physicality. He's still taking some tough jumpers and stuff where he can't maybe get all the way to the basket, but more often than not, he's able to get right by the defenders that he wants to. And obviously, you're looking at the opponent on the other side, and for sure, the Bucks are not any type of opponent that you're going to face in the playoffs, even the first round. But that being said, right now is not about the other team and the opponent you're facing. It's about what the Celtics are able to do, and they're clicking on all cylinders. We'll dive in to Jaylen Brown's game. We'll dive into Jason Tatum's game. Sam Hauser has another great game: 13 points, 5 of 6, 3 of 4 from 3. So it just seems like, and I know they only have 5 games left. They have the Raptors, they have the Knicks coming up. They play the Hornets again, I do believe. But they really don't have a lot of time left. This is the perfect moment to be clicking on all cylinders, and they're doing just that. Jason Tatum is, we're going to talk about what he's able to do right now. We already talked about it a little bit, but just the fact that he's out there averaging triple doubles, something that he wasn't doing when he was fully healthy before this Achilles injury. And his scoring's down for sure, but his playmaking's up, his facilitating's up, his rebounding is up. He is fantastic right now. And then Jaylen Brown, obviously, the Tim Bontemps poll came out today, and he was listed at 5th. Now that Luka Doncic is going to be ineligible, it seems like my guess is he'll move up to 4th. Different conversation for another day on about whether the 65 game rule is a legitimate rule that should stay. And my guess is it's going to go away, although it is working in terms of getting players, star players at least, to play. That's for another show. Right now, we have to dive in to this game. And to be honest, right, there's not much to say. This is a game where, you hold the Bucks to 101 points while allowing them, and I know they were pointing this out on the broadcast, but while allowing them to hit 21 threes, right? Very rarely do you see a team win, let alone by 32 points, on a night where they give up 21 threes, and it wasn't bad defense. They just chose to let the Bucks hit the threes. And to be honest, the Bucks are a good three-point shooting team. They're 11th in attempts, but one of the top teams in efficiency-wise. But it didn't matter because the Boston Celtics could not be stopped on their offensive end. And so you could do whatever you want. If you're Milwaukee, you could do whatever you want on the offensive end. You weren't going to be able to stop the Celtics on the defensive end. And therefore, it didn't matter that the Bucks hit 21 threes because the Celtics locked down the paint. Once the Bucks, started missing shots late in that second quarter, early third quarter, the Celtics just pulled away and never looked back. Right, we talked about Jason Tatum a little bit, and to be honest, there's not much else in this game. Like, you're looking at an opponent that's playing G Leaguers, not totally G Leaguers. Obviously, Kyle Kuzma is a veteran in this league. But other than that, I mean, you look at the starters. How many of these players do you actually know as a casual NBA fan, right? Obviously, we know Kyle Kuzma. Pete Nance, I've never heard of that guy. Usman Dieng, I've heard of him, but he's not a star player or anything. Miles Turner, obviously, he was fantastic with Indiana over the last couple of years. And AJ Green, I think he's a rookie, maybe second year player. Right, he's been pretty good in Milwaukee, shooting wise. But you don't really know any of these guys for the Bucks. It just states to the point that the Bucks are not really a team trying to compete, and there's the whole Giannis situation. Whatever, we'll see what happens. At the end of the game, right, both Giannis's brothers are playing, and Giannis is sitting on the court or on the bench watching. It was kind of a funny moment. We'll see what happens with that situation. Right, the Bucks or Giannis really wants to play. The Bucks are, saying he's not ready to play. They won't clear him from his quote unquote medical injury or status that he has, and obviously he's been injured, right? It's been a pretty bad season in terms of injury for him. Right, one of the reasons that the Bucks are so hesitant to play him, not only for the tanking reason, because that's obviously a big one, but also the fact that if he gets injured, they have no way to trade him. Right, but that's on the Bucks side, right? As for the Celtics side, you just take advantage of it. You play who you play on your schedule. You get a lot of good rest for your star players, who obviously they've been taking some games off. Jaylen Brown, the case, Jason Tatum took a game off in Atlanta, but for the most part, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been ramping up. They've been playing 35, 40 minutes a night sometimes to ramp up for these playoffs, and tonight was a night where they didn't need to play at all in the fourth quarter, so they sit down. Unfortunate for Jason Tatum, he was his one assist shy of a triple-double, where he had a wide-open three to end the quarter, and he decided to throw a grenade at Peyton Pritchard to see if Peyton Pritchard could make the buzzer beater and give Jason Tatum that assist. Kind of a funny moment. But that being said, right, it's still 26 points, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, just 2 turnovers. He had 3 steals as well. Now, a couple of those were not, his own doing, but some poor offense from the Bucks. I think 2 of those, they passed it right to him. But nevertheless, right, just the 2 turnovers, plays 31 minutes, 4 of 8 from 3, 8 of 16 overall, so pretty good efficiency. Right, you just love what you're seeing from Jason Tatum right now, and he's at 23 points because he's not getting the calls yet at the line. Those are going to start to come back, maybe less so in the playoffs, but still more. Right, he only took 4 free throws. Right, you love to see his 3-pointers below 8. Right. I think, probably a good number is probably 6. Probably somewhere in that 6 to 8 range per game is that perfect number of 3-pointers. And obviously, if he's going to be knocking them down and he's that 3-level score between the mid-range at the rim and that 3-point shooting, he's going to be unstoppable. The Celtics are the favorite in the East. Jaylen Brown, on the other hand, right, didn't have, a big night scoring-wise. He didn't need to. Obviously, nothing compared to what he was able to do last night, or on Wednesday, rather, against the Miami Heat. 7 of 17, which, his efficiency was a little down tonight. But, he does get 10 of 11 at the free throw line, so just free points there. Ever since the All-Star break, he's been fantastic at the free throw line. After being like a career 75% free throw shooter, he has been shooting over 85% since the All-Star break, right? And hopefully he can carry that into the playoffs, especially because, there's all this gravity on Jason Tatum and there's all this gravity on Jaylen Brown. That is going to allow, he's going to have guys focused on him. He's going to be able to make assists. He's going to be able to, play off of that gravity between the two of them. And then teams are going to start to back off, and that's going to allow Jaylen Brown to go in and play with that physicality. And in the postseason, they don't call those offensive fouls as much. They don't call the defensive fouls either. But more importantly, right, his aggressiveness will only help Jaylen Brown because, to be honest, he doesn't really care whether he gets to the line or not. If he's allowed to just play with that physical aggressiveness an aggressiveness and just drive at guys and not have to be worried about offensive fouls, it's only going to help Jaylen Brown whether he gets the calls or not. Anything else in this game that really sticks out? No. Derek White, okay shooting wise, 6 of 11, 5 of 9 from 3. That's good to see, right? He's really been up and down throughout the entire season. He's really never been able to figure that out. Obviously, he's always doing the little stuff defensively. Didn't have a block or a steal in this game, but just one turnover, still making plays for others. So great to see that. Obviously, he is a team high plus 34 as he usually is. So, just fantastic work from Derek White behind the scenes. Bench players got a nice run in that fourth quarter. Neemias Queta, 19 points. He was fantastic in that first quarter on just backdoor cuts or, sort of ghost screening and diving to the basket, where Jason Tatum was just able to lob it over the top and give him free points at the rim, right? So just great coordination between him and Jason Tatum, right? Luke Cornett and Jason Tatum were really good at that last season, and it seems like Neemias Queta is growing quickly into that role. And another thing with Neemias Queta is he's come a long way in the simple fact that, and I know they pointed this out on the broadcast actually, but in the simple fact that he's able to, ask for a challenge, and Joe Mazzulla grants him or challenges the play without even looking at his bench to see if it's worth challenging, right? Joe Mazzulla never allows, players that he doesn't have confidence in, that hasn't earned his trust, just to ask for a challenge and give it right away, right? That never happens with Joe Mazzulla. He's always very hesitant about that. So the simple fact that he's doing that just shows you how much trust he has in Neemias Queta, right? I mean, he has to be one of the most improved players of the season, if not the most improved player of the season. Other things on this game, there's not much. We're going to talk about right now some possible first-round matchups, and then we'll wrap it up. And we'll keep this short. We're going to do a podcast episode this weekend. It'll probably come out. I'm trying to think about when I'm going to have time to record this. It'll probably come out. We'll probably do it, probably come out Sunday evening, Easter Sunday evening at some point. I know they play the Raptors. When did they play? What time is that Raptors game that they play? I know is it a 3 o'clock game for the Celtics? 3:30 game, right? Yeah, so 3:30 game. So it'll probably come out around 8 o'clock or something after the game. We'll record it before the game. We're not going to be talking about that Raptors game, but that'll give me time for us to do a little post-game show for this Raptors game, and then it will come out afterwards. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But as of now, right, the play-in teams in the Eastern Conference, at 7th, it is the Toronto Raptors. 8th, the Charlotte Hornets. 9th, Orlando. 10, the Heat. The Heat have completely fallen off. At this point, their best chance, along with the Orlando Magic, two teams that have just absolutely collapsed over the last part of the season, but they can't, they're not going to fall out with the fact that Milwaukee has been eliminated at 30-47. The next team, the Miami Heat, have 40 wins. So, the Heat and the Orlando Magic, their best chance is to face the Pistons in the first round and win 2. That means it's a matchup between the Charlotte Hornets and the Toronto Raptors. And my gosh, would we like to face the Toronto Raptors over the Charlotte Hornets. I know you just beat the Charlotte Hornets, but the offense that the Hornets can provide could just, on one night if the Celtics aren't on their game, could just blow you out of the water. I mean, that offense for the Charlotte Hornets is legitimate with what Colin Knippel, the runaway rookie of the year at this point, just because of how bad the Mavericks season has been overall, despite Cooper putting up great numbers. Right? Between him, the buy-in from LaMelo Ball, Bridges, Kalkbrenner, all of their players are, performing really well on the offensive end. Right? And obviously the defense is a little bit weaker than the Toronto Raptors, but I'd rather, take that defense because I know that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can handle their defense for the Toronto Raptors. Whereas, you don't have to be worried about the Toronto Raptors letting it up offensively. So we're really hoping that the Toronto Raptors can beat the Charlotte Hornets in the first round or in the first play-in game. I think the first game is the 18th. I'm still trying to figure out my schedule for the playoffs because I'm actually traveling for that first week and a half of the playoffs, so I'm probably going to miss the first round. We'll try and do some reactions to that, whatever. I'm trying to hopefully get that figured out. But going forward from there, we'll try and do live streams after games. We'll try and do live streams during games. As we get later in the playoffs, we'll do like nightly streams. We'll do nightly, recaps and whatever of the entire NBA playoffs, not just the Celtics, going into June, where we'll probably, hopefully the Celtics are there in the finals. But either way, we'll do live streams for almost every game. So stay tuned for all of that. That's coming down the road. Over the next couple of weeks, actually the next 2 weeks, we're going to have all our sort of end-of-season podcast episodes. We're going to do a Celtics recap. I have my award predictions, all NBA awards and all that stuff. I have like some, funny, sort of sarcastic award topics, like who's the most, or like all NBA greatest ejections, or all NBA, stupidest, or all NBA, should not be in the NBA moments, all that stuff from this season alone. So we'll go through all that. We'll do a full preview of the playoffs once we know the first round opponent. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, go Celtics.
Oh, that's good.